My sister Emily and I were both given a destiny system, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to change our futures. In our first life, Emily chose the beauty system. She thought beauty would make every powerful man fall at her feet. Instead, it only made her a pretty toy for rich heirs to admire and discard. When she failed to earn genuine love before the deadline, the system took everything back. Her beauty vanished, her admirers disappeared, and she ended up broke, abandoned, and bitter. I chose the elite athlete system. I trained until my body nearly broke, became America's youngest Olympic champion, shattered records, and built a legendary career. Fame, fortune, and success were all mine. Even Ethan Walker, the heir to one of the country's most powerful old money families, chased after me. Emily hated me for it, so she rammed her car into mine and killed me. When I opened my eyes again, we were both 16, standing before the destiny system on the very day we first made our choices. This time, Emily shouted before I could speak. I choose the elite athlete system. She looked at me with a smug smile. Olivia, this time I'll be the one everyone admires. I looked at the beauty system now drifting toward me and smiled. Emily thought she had stolen my golden future. She had no idea that every gift fate offers comes with a price. Only after Emily killed me did I realize she'd regretted her original choice all along. When we were 16, we had both been given a chance to rewrite our destinies. A mysterious figure appeared before us and said there would only be one opportunity to choose. You may choose outstanding beauty or extraordinary athletic talent. You only get one chance. Choose carefully. In my previous life, Emily chose the beauty system. She believed beauty was the fastest way into America's elite social circles. But once beauty actually opened those doors and she entered a world of billionaires, celebrities, and old money heirs, she discovered something she'd never expected. Beauty wasn't rare. The wealthy young men around her treated her like a beautiful accessory for showing off for a while, not a person they truly loved. They were obsessed with her appearance, but only for a season. When the beauty system determined she had failed to earn anyone's genuine love, it reclaimed every gift it had ever given her. She lost her extraordinary beauty overnight. Her wealthy benefactors disappeared. She was left penniless and alone. I, on the other hand, had chosen the elite athlete system. I became America's youngest Olympic champion and one of the greatest athletes of my generation. Even Ethan Walker, the heir to the powerful Walker family, whom Emily had never been able to win over, ended up chasing me. I had both fame and fortune. Unable to accept that, Emily murdered me. And now we were both 16 again. Before the mysterious figure could finish speaking, Emily shouted, I choose the elite athlete system. The hooded figure revealed half of a gentle smile. But a moment ago, you said your greatest wish was extraordinary beauty. The system you receive is born from your deepest desire. Are you certain becoming an elite athlete is what you truly want? Emily answered without hesitation. Yes, absolutely. Beauty can't compare to talent. The figure remained silent for a moment before turning toward me. And what about you? Seeing that the figure was still asking for my decision, Emily suddenly rushed forward and grabbed the glowing blue orb from its right hand. The instant she touched it, the light dissolved into her body. Joy filled her eyes. Perfect. This time, the fame, the fortune, and Ethan Walker will all be mine. The mysterious figure didn't move. Its smile simply grew warmer. Then the beauty system belongs to you. A second orb drifted gently into my hands. As soon as I touched it, the light merged with my body. The figure slowly became transparent. My gifts have now been entrusted to you. Complete your missions and enjoy the life you've chosen. Its voice faded as it disappeared completely. Emily was already completely absorbed in her new system. She looked at me with a sneer. You had your chance in your last life. Now it's finally my turn. I simply smiled back without saying a word. Emily still didn't understand. Fate's gifts are never free. A system may give you extraordinary talent, but it can never replace your own hard work. Emily quickly began enjoying the benefits of her new system. Like all destiny systems, ours granted an initial boost. The elite athlete system enhanced her reflexes, coordination, endurance, and body awareness. Every drill came naturally to her, and every workout produced results far beyond those of an ordinary athlete. She couldn't wait to show everyone. During gym class and after-school training, she was suddenly outperforming varsity athletes who had trained for years. Since when is Emily this athletic? She's incredible. I've never seen anyone improve that fast. Emily basked in the admiration. Then, catching sight of me from the corner of her eye, she covered her mouth with a small laugh. My sister trains really hard after school too. It's just no matter how much she practices, she never seems to improve. She sighed dramatically. If Olivia wanted, I'd gladly share my training routine with her.
But she's too proud to ask.
A teammate who had been asking Emily for advice immediately chimed in. Come on, Olivia just isn't naturally athletic. Even if you coached her, it wouldn't make a difference.
You two are sisters.
How did Emily end up so talented while Olivia got none of the athletic genes? Untalented? I lowered my eyes to the A on my latest fitness assessment. The truth was, I wasn't doing badly at all. Emily simply had a way of planting ideas in people's minds. Little by little, everyone started believing I was secretly obsessed with catching up to her, and jealous that I never could. In high school, people naturally admired gifted athletes, especially someone like Emily, who seemed to excel without breaking a sweat. Natural talent was rare, and because it was rare, everyone envied it. Meanwhile, some of the boys in school began teasing me just to get my attention. The beauty system had begun revealing its power as well. Emily and I had always looked alike. But as we grew older, subtle changes began to appear. I was going through a transformation. I grew taller. My figure became more graceful and athletic, my complexion cleared, and my features became more defined. At a school where almost everyone dressed casually and wore little makeup, my appearance gradually became impossible to ignore. So, what if she's pretty? This is school. Athletics and grades matter more.
Exactly.
Olivia may be gorgeous, but Emily's the real star. If I had to choose, Emily's still my favorite. Emily looked thoroughly pleased with herself. I simply watched without saying a word. What she didn't understand was that the elite athlete system didn't magically create champions. In my previous life, she had needed to earn someone's genuine love before the beauty system rewarded her. Likewise, I had needed to train relentlessly, day after day, before I could ever stand on an Olympic podium. Talent alone had never been enough. The people who reached the very top were never lacking in ability. In the end, what separated them wasn't talent. It was discipline. Who could work harder? Who could endure years without immediate results? The world is full of beautiful people. It's also full of talented athletes. But very few ever become truly successful. Every glamorous moment is paid for by countless unseen hours of sacrifice. Fate has never rewarded those unwilling to earn what they've been given. Emily quickly became the star athlete everyone at school was talking about. The students surrounding her were all varsity stars and the most talented athletes on campus. But she soon realized something didn't make sense. Unlike my previous life, I wasn't being isolated by the other girls. If anything, everyone still laughed and talked with me as usual. She couldn't understand it. Why was it that, despite having the beauty system, despite becoming the prettiest girl in school and constantly being the subject of anonymous crush posts online, I wasn't surrounded by jealous girls? The truth was that people hadn't disliked Emily in my previous life because she was beautiful. Hey, Olivia. A familiar voice called out from the hallway. Jake Carter, the school's most notorious troublemaker, was leaning against a row of lockers with that familiar cocky grin. You coming to the bonfire after the game tonight? Jake came from one of the wealthiest families in town. His father owned casinos, luxury resorts, and half the entertainment businesses in the county. Everyone knew the Carter family had connections powerful enough that even the school administration preferred not to challenge them. In my previous life, Jake had chased Emily just as relentlessly. Back then, she loved the attention. She was always riding around town in the passenger seat of his brand new Corvette. While everyone else was studying for exams or training after school, she skipped classes to follow Jake around, using his reputation to intimidate other students. That was why people disliked her. Not because she was beautiful, because she treated everyone else as if they were beneath her. I wasn't going to repeat those mistakes. Jake walked straight to my desk, resting both hands on it as he looked down at me. He was handsome,
Popular.
generous with money. Half the girls in school had a crush on him. Unfortunately, he also had a terrible temper. So, you coming or not? I shook my head.
No.
I'm going home after school. It was the fourth time I'd turned him down. His patience was obviously running out. A flash of irritation crossed his face. The curious stares from everyone around us only made him angrier. Olivia Brooks, don't push your luck. I'm actually into you right now. So quit acting like you're too good for me. The hallway fell completely silent. Everybody was looking at us. Just last month, Jake had put another student in the hospital after a fight in the parking lot. I lowered my eyes, quietly pinched my thigh as hard as I could. When I looked up again, my eyes were already shimmering with tears. Jake, how could you say something like that? His anger vanished instantly. He scratched the back of his head, looking completely lost. Whoa, I didn't even do anything. Hey, don't cry. If you don't want to go, then don't. I ignored him completely. Sniffling, I wiped away my tears and hurried down the hallway. Another second, and I probably wouldn't have been able to keep crying. I had to admit it. Beauty could be a weapon, but it was always a double-edged sword. If you didn't know how to use it, you'd only end up hurting yourself. Confronting Jake head-on would have been foolish. For now, showing a little vulnerability was the safest way to protect myself. Before I had the strength to protect myself, my beauty was a liability disguised as a blessing. But unlike Emily, I had no intention of relying on a powerful man to keep me safe. Building your future around strangers who only value your appearance was a losing strategy from the very beginning. Even the most beautiful flower loses its charm once it becomes familiar. A bird in a gilded cage can never truly soar. I wasn't meant to belong to anyone. I was meant to fly on my own. I might have looked delicate, but I could run. By the time Jake came looking for me, I was already long gone. I slipped into an old fitness room behind the gym and pulled out my resistance band. I set my phone on a small tripod and started filming another workout vlog. Today's video was a simple after-school conditioning routine. I'd edit it and upload it later that night. In today's social media world, extraordinary beauty could be turned into an opportunity almost overnight. I'd been posting fitness content, training routines, and snippets of my daily workouts for months. My accounts had already grown to over 600,000 followers. My followers liked to joke that I was the daughter they wished they had. They loved watching a sweet, hardworking teenage girl chasing her athletic dreams one workout at a time. Who wouldn't want a daughter like that? Among countless fitness influencers who relied solely on looks, I'd managed to build something different. Nearly 90% of my followers were women. Before long, I'd somehow collected an army of internet moms. At first, I had only wanted to test a theory. In Emily's mind, beauty existed to win a man's attention. A beautiful woman was supposed to be chosen, protected, and lifted into a better life by someone powerful. But as more and more girls and women followed my account, encouraged me, defended me, and waited for every new video I posted, I began to understand something Emily never had. Love did not only exist between a man and a woman. Affection was affection. Genuine support was genuine support. As long as it was real, the beauty system recognized it. Once the system paired extraordinary beauty with the image of a diligent high school student, that beauty no longer felt threatening. It felt inspiring. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the mirror and wonder how one face could change so much. My inbox was flooded with messages from modeling agencies and talent scouts. They all insisted I belonged in Hollywood and should become the next big star. In my previous life, Emily had briefly entered the entertainment industry as well. But her popularity disappeared almost as quickly as it came. The wealthy men obsessed with her preferred to keep her out of the spotlight. Later, after the beauty system abandoned her, gossip accounts constantly posted side-by-side photos comparing her before and after, lamenting how badly she'd aged. She'd only been 32. This time around, I no longer possessed extraordinary athletic talent. I was physically no different from anyone else. Throwing myself into the brutal world of elite sports simply wasn't the right path for me anymore. But I wasn't planning to rush into show business either. An ordinary person who worked hard could still earn admission to a great university. And in today's creator economy, beauty could quickly become a profitable advantage. Still, living off my appearance alone would never be enough. While my online presence continued to grow, Emily's performance began to slip. One afternoon, she angrily demanded, "I have the elite athlete system. So why are there still skills I can't master?" The system answered in its usual cold, mechanical voice. "I can enhance your physical potential. I cannot train for you." Emily had never been someone with much patience. Making her practice every day was practically torture. But after losing her spot as the school's top athlete, she had no choice but to start training seriously. With the system's enhancements, improvement came much more easily. Before long, she climbed back to the top. Our parents couldn't have been happier. Everyone loved a successful child, especially our parents. Progress meant everything to them. One evening, Dad looked at me and frowned. "Olivia, why can't you be more like your sister? Emily's the best athlete in school, and you're barely average." Tilting my head, I smiled. "But Dad, I've improved a lot too. My coach says I have a real chance of earning an athletic scholarship." Mom frowned even harder. In my previous life, she'd become increasingly suspicious of Emily as she grew more beautiful. She always assumed attractive girls attracted trouble. This time, those suspicions had shifted onto me. "I've heard you've been hanging around boys with bad reputations." "Olivia Brooks, don't embarrass this family." Emily watched with obvious satisfaction. After our parents finished lecturing me, she walked over with a smile and pulled me toward the hallway mirror. See, Olivia? What good is beauty? This time, I'm the one mom and dad really love. I looked at her and quietly sighed. Even after living through an entire lifetime, she was still obsessed with winning their approval. The truth was that our parents didn't truly love either of us. They loved whichever daughter brought the family the greatest pride. In my previous life, after I became a world-famous Olympic champion, they were constantly dragging me to charity galas, alumni events, and community functions just so they could introduce me as their Olympic daughter. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have parents who love their children unconditionally. Sometimes, even a parent's love comes with a price. But that was all right. No life is ever completely perfect. Emily had made sure our parents knew that Jake Carter was chasing me. Lately, Mom has watched me like I was a criminal. She was terrified I'd do something that would disgrace the family. If she could, she'd lock me in the house and never let me out. Don't you dare do anything stupid. There are plenty of men in the world. But if you ruin your reputation, no one can fix it for you. Girls who fool around always end up regretting it. Her shrill voice echoed through the house. I treated it like background noise. Every bad YA novel needed an overdramatic parent after all. But that afternoon, I didn't make it home. Jake was waiting for me outside the school entrance. Olivia Brooks. He folded his arms across his chest. Your sister told me you think you're too good for me. Emily knew Jake well. He was athletic, impulsive, hot-tempered, and hated looking weak. The moment she convinced him I'd been rejecting him because I looked down on him, he stormed over to confront me. He pulled me away from the crowd. So that's it? You think you're better than me? I can make your life miserable if I want to. I looked at him helplessly. Time to use the same trick again. Are you teaming up with Emily to bully me, too? Teenage boys were surprisingly easy to manipulate. Even one like Jake. Until you held all the cards, picking a fight with someone like him was just stupid. I still had a future worth protecting. I wasn't going to throw it away over someone like him. Bully you? I covered my face and burst into tears. No matter what he asked, I refused to answer. The empty fitness room echoed with nothing but my sobbing. Within minutes, Jake looked like he wished he could disappear. Meanwhile, Emily was leading Ethan Walker toward the fitness room. She knew Jake's temper. Once he dragged me away, things were bound to get ugly. Just to make sure there were witnesses, she invited several classmates to come along. She'd even called parents ahead of time, claiming her sister had run off with the school's resident troublemaker and that she couldn't stop her. A small crowd made its way across campus. Emily practically skipped the whole way there. She could already picture my reputation falling apart. Walking behind her, Ethan frowned. I still don't get why we have to go to the fitness room. Emily smiled sweetly. I just thought it'd be quieter. With several classmates nearby, Ethan didn't press the issue. As Emily reached for the door, she spotted our parents hurrying across the athletic field. She didn't even bother looking inside. The moment she pulled the door open, she shouted,
Mom, Dad.
Don't come in. Olivia's doing something she should be ashamed of. Our parents rushed forward, pushing past the stunned students. Mom was already yelling about how I was humiliating the family. Then both of them froze. When Mom and Dad burst into the room, expecting to catch me in an unforgivable scandal, they froze. Jake Carter was standing a full 10 feet away from me, looking utterly panicked. He held a crumpled paper towel in his hand, hovering awkwardly near the water, cooler as if he was afraid that moving any closer would set off an explosion. I was sitting on the low wooden bench near the cubbies, clutching my knees, tears silently streaming down my face. My hair was tied up in a neat ponytail. My workout band was coiled neatly beside my phone tripod, and I looked like nothing more than an exhausted, terrified girl being cornered by a boy known for his violent temper. What is this? Dad stammered, looking between Jake and me. Jake swallowed hard, his usual arrogant swagger completely gone. Look, Mr. Brooks, I didn't touch her. I swear to God. I raised my voice and she started crying. I was just trying to get her to drink some water. Mom turned slowly to look at Emily. Her face was bright red with humiliation. Behind our parents, Ethan Walker stood near the open doorway. His eyes bypassed Emily entirely, landing on me. There was a look of quiet, thoughtful scrutiny in his expression. Then, his gaze shifted to Emily, whose face had drained of all color. Emily stood by the door, her hand still gripping the brass handle. Her mouth was slightly open, her mind clearly scrambling to comprehend what had gone wrong. She had expected to find me huddled with Jake in a dark corner, or perhaps caught in a reckless, compromising position. She had brought our parents, Ethan, and half a dozen classmates specifically to witness my downfall. Instead, she had brought an audience to witness her own malicious eagerness to ruin her sister, Emily. Ethan spoke up, his voice cool and even. You said your sister was doing something she should be ashamed of. Emily panicked, her fingers tightening on the doorframe. I thought. Someone told me Jake dragged her in here. I was worried about her. You didn't look worried, Ethan said softly. You looked excited. A collective murmur went through the classmates standing in the hallway.
Hi.
School students were not blind. They knew Emily's loud proclamation outside had contained zero concern and absolute malice. Mom grabbed Emily's arm, her voice tight with suppressed rage.
Home.
Both of
You. Right now.
Jake quickly backed away toward the side door, mumbling an apology to my father. Before fleeing the room entirely, I wiped my eyes with the back of my sleeve, stood up quietly, picked up my phone tripod and resistance band and walked past my family without saying a single word. I didn't need to defend myself. When someone digs a pit for another person with such obvious greed, the trap always collapses on the builder. The incident at the gym room marked a distinct shift in how people at school viewed the two of us. In our previous life, Emily had been the victim of her own shallow desires, but she had played the damsel well enough to keep people guessing. This time her impatience was ruining her. She was so desperate to see me suffer that she kept exposing her own spiteful nature. Ethan Walker, who had previously been polite to Emily out of sheer politeness between wealthy family acquaintances, began distance himself completely. In the cafeteria 3 days later, Emily carried her tray over to the table, where Ethan sat with the school's top academic and varsity athletes. Ethan, she said, offering her sweetest, most practiced smile. Are you going to the track finals this Friday? My coach says I'm set to break the state regional record for the 400-meter dash. Ethan looked up from his tablet. His expression was polite, but entirely detached. I have debate club prep on Friday, Emily. Good luck, though. Oh, I see. Emily's smile wavered. Well, maybe we could get coffee after?
My
Dad bought tickets to the symphony next week, and I'm busy next week as well. Ethan interrupted gently. He didn't raise his voice, but the finality in his tone was absolute. Excuse me, I need to go hand in this paper. He stood up, packed his things, and walked away. Emily stood there holding her tray, her face burning under the watchful eyes of the surrounding tables. She bit her lip so hard it almost bled. She couldn't understand it. In our past life, Ethan had chased after me relentlessly when I was an Olympic champion. Why wasn't he chasing her now that she had the elite athlete system? What Emily failed to grasp was that Ethan Walker was born into old money. His family owned logistics empires, hedge funds, and historical real estate.
He grew
up surrounded by people who constantly performed for his attention. In our past life, Ethan had chased me not just because I won gold medals, but because I was completely focused on my own craft. I never looked at him as a golden ticket. I was already a legend in my own right, built on years of iron
discipline.
My independence was what drew him in. Emily, despite possessing athletic potential now, carried herself with the desperate, hungry energy of someone who wanted to use her achievements to buy a place at his side. To someone like Ethan, that desperation was painfully obvious and deeply unappealing. While Emily struggled to secure Ethan's attention, my own path was moving in a completely different direction. That evening, I checked my social media metrics. My latest workout video, a simple, honest breakdown of mobility exercises for desk-bound students, filmed in my modest bedroom, had hit 2 million views. The comment section was full of positive feedback. Olivia is so grounding too.
Watch.
She doesn't sell fake supplements or act like she's better than anyone. Her posture tips actually help my lower back pain. She's like a sweet, younger sister who just wants everyone to stay healthy. Can we talk about her skin and grace though? She looks like an angel, but she works so hard. A soft chime sounded in my mind, a notification from the beauty system that had remained dormant for weeks. System alert. Genuine warmth, respect, and positive influence received from 500,000 unique individuals. Reward unlocked. Passive aura of composure and physical vitality enhancement. I felt a subtle, soothing warmth spread from my chest out to my fingertips.
My
breathing deepened, my mind grew crystal clear, and the fatigue from studying disappeared entirely. The beauty system wasn't about physical cosmetics. It was an amplifier of presence. When rooted in vanity, it turned toxic, but when backed by self-respect, hard work, and genuine value provided to others, it bestowed an magnetic, unshakable dignity. I closed my laptop and smiled softly. Emily was relying on a system to make her an athlete, so she could impress a boy. I was using my system to build an empire of my own. As the weeks passed toward the state regional athletic meet, Emily's behavior became increasingly erratic. The elite athlete system granted her incredible physical potential, higher muscle, fiber recruitment, faster lactic acid clearance, and superior cardiovascular limits. But potential meant nothing if the nervous system and mind refused to endure pain. To break a record, an athlete had to push past the wall where the body screamed at you to stop. In our past life, I had spent hours every morning vomiting from exhaustion on the track, pushing through shin splints and torn calluses until my body adapted. I knew what it felt like to run until your lungs felt like they were filled with broken glass. Emily had never worked hard a day in her life. When her coach pushed her during late afternoon track workouts, demanding she sprint through the final 100 meters at full effort, Emily would slow down the moment her legs began to burn. "Emily, what was that?" Coach Harris shouted, slamming his clipboard against his
Thigh.
"You have the talent of a national prodigy, but your second half is lazy. You're coasting on your natural genetics." "I'm not coasting," Emily gasped, leaning against the fence, sweat dripping down her face. "I'm pacing myself." "You're not pacing yourself, you're quitting when it gets hard," Coach Harris
Barked.
"If you run like that at regionals, girls who have worked their asses off for 4 years are going to eat you alive." After practice, Emily stumbled into the locker room, her face pale and her hands shaking. She pulled up her system interface in private, her voice trembling with rage. "System, why am I so tired? You're supposed to make me an elite athlete.
Fix my
endurance." The mechanical voice of the elite athlete system resonated in her mind, cold and unfeeling. User warning. The system provides optimal physiological ceilings. High-level performance requires voluntary mental tolerance of physical strain. The system cannot suffer for you. I don't care. Give me a boost. Give me something that skips the pain. Emily yelled under her breath. Option available. Temporary nervous system override. Penalty, severe. Post-competition muscle degradation and elevated injury risk. Do you accept? Emily didn't even hesitate.
Yes.
Whatever it takes to win first place on Friday. I need everyone to see me on that podium. That night at dinner, Emily was unusually high-spirited. She kept glancing at our parents, making sure they knew how important the upcoming meet was. "Mom, Dad," Emily said, cutting her steak with deliberate flourish. "You should invite the Walkers to the meet on Friday. Ethan's father is on the athletic
board, right?
It would be great if they were there when I break the 400-meter regional record." Dad looked up from his newspaper, his eyes lighting up with ambition.
The
Walkers? Mr. Walker mentioned he might attend the regional finals. "If you actually break a record, Emily, that could open a lot of doors for our family." "I will," Emily said smugly, casting a side eye at me. "Unlike some people who just post silly videos online, I'm doing something that brings real honor to this family." Mom nodded in agreement, handing Emily a bowl of organic salad. "Make sure you rest well, darling. Olivia, make sure you don't distract your sister this week. Her future is at stake." I quietly chewed my food and nodded. "Of course. Good luck, Emily." Emily smirked, taking my quietness as submission. She had no idea that real gold was forged in fire, not handed out by shortcuts. And when you forced a system to override your body's natural limits without building the foundation to support it, the crash was never a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Friday arrived with clear skies and a packed stadium. The state regional athletic meet was one of the largest high school events of
the year.
College recruiters, local media, and wealthy sponsors filled the grandstands. In the VIP section, Ethan Walker sat next to his father, Richard Walker, a sharp-eyed man in a tailor-made suit who oversaw several sports foundation grants. Our parents were seated 2 rows behind them, practically vibrating with
excitement.
Dad had brought a high-end camera, ready to capture Emily's victory moment. I sat a few rows away in the student section, wearing a simple cardigan, a notebook in my lap. Even without makeup or flashy clothing, my presence drew quiet glances from the students around me. A few girls from neighboring schools even walked over shyly to ask for photos with me, recognizing me for my fitness account. I smiled, politely took the photos, and encouraged them for their own events. Down on the track, the runners for the girls' 400-meter varsity final were taking their positions. Emily stood in lane 4, wearing a bright custom track uniform. She bounced on her toes, looking supremely confident. The system's nervous system override was active. Her heart rate was artificially stabilized, and her muscles felt completely weightless. "Runners, take your marks," the official's voice echoed through the stadium speakers. Emily dropped into her starting blocks.
Set. Bang.
The starter pistol fired. Emily exploded out of the blocks like a bullet. The crowd gasped. Within the first 100 meters, she had already erased the waterfall stagger, surging past the runners in lanes 5 and 6. Her stride was violently fast, her turnover speed far beyond normal high school standards. "Look at her go." Dad cheered from the stands, standing up to shoot video. "That's my daughter." Richard Walker leaned forward slightly, watching with an analytical expression. "Fast start. Almost too fast for a 400. Beside him, Ethan remained quiet, his eyes fixed on Emily's posture. By the 200-meter mark, Emily was 5 strides ahead of the pack.
She
Felt an intoxicating rush of power. The world was watching her. The cameras were on her. Ethan was watching her. "This is it," she thought wildly. "I'm the prodigy. I'm the golden child." Then, as she hit the final curve at the 300-meter mark, the system's override hit its hard thermal limit. The human body has safety mechanisms for a reason. Pushing a muscle beyond its threshold without organic conditioning causes rapid, catastrophic fatigue. Suddenly, the artificial numbness dissolved. A wave of excruciating pain slammed into Emily's body, like a freight train. Her legs felt as if they were instantly filled with wet cement. Her lungs burned violently, her vision blurred at the edges, and her heart pounded frantically against her ribs. What's happening?" Emily panicked internally. "System.
help me. Keep
Me going." System alert. Override duration expired. Muscle tissue lactic saturation at 98%. Immediate deceleration required to prevent structural tearing.
No.
"I'm almost at the finish line. Keep moving." Emily screamed in her mind, attempting to force her legs to stride out. Her right hamstring violently cramped. With 20 meters left to go, Emily's knee buckled. She stumbled awkwardly, her legs tangling beneath her, and hit the track hard, skidding across the red rubber surface in front of thousands of spectators. The crowd let out a collective, horrified gasp. The other runners, who had paced themselves properly through the brutal curve, swept past her one by one. The girl from lane 2 crossed the finish line first, breaking into a triumphant smile as the crowd erupted in cheers. On the track, Emily lay sprawled on her side, clutching her thigh, crying out in pain and shame. Medical staff rushed onto the track with a stretcher. In the stands, Dad dropped his camera. Mom buried her face in her hands. Ethan Walker watched the scene calmly. He didn't look shocked, he looked disappointed, as if he had anticipated that an athlete who relied on empty arrogance would eventually break under pressure. He turned his head slightly, his gaze drifting away from the chaos on the track, searching through the grandstand until he found me. I met his gaze for a brief second, my face calm and unreadable, before I stood up to follow my parents down to the medical tent. The diagnosis at the sports clinic was severe muscle strain and torn hamstring fibers. The doctor explained that Emily had pushed her body far beyond its current physiological conditioning, resulting in a sudden, violent failure of the muscle
group.
She would need at least 3 months of physical therapy and would miss the rest of the season. When we returned home that evening, the atmosphere in the house was suffocatingly heavy. Dad sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at his cold coffee. He had spent weeks bragging to his colleagues and friends about his prodigy daughter.
Now,
local sports blogs were posting clips of Emily's dramatic, embarrassing fall at the finish line, calling it a classic case of an arrogant athlete overpacing themselves and collapsing under pressure. Mom was fussing over Emily in the living room, but her tone lacked its usual warmth. It was sharp, strained, and laced with irritation. "How could you be so careless, Emily? You had the lead. Why didn't you pace yourself like your coach told you to?" Emily lay on the sofa, her right leg wrapped tightly in a brace. Her eyes were red from crying, but beneath her tears was a burning, ugly rage. "It wasn't my fault," she sobbed angrily. "My leg just gave out."
it was an accident.
In her mind, she was frantically screaming at her system. "Why didn't you fix my leg? You're supposed to be an elite athlete system. You made me look like an idiot." The cold, mechanical voice answered her with chilling clarity. System response. The system provided physical capacity. The user chose to bypass training, forced an artificial override, and ignored physical stress signals. Success cannot be granted to those who refuse the burden of preparation. Penalty applied. Physical. Attribute ceiling reduced by 15% due to muscular scarring. Reduced. Emily's heart dropped into a dark, bottomless pit. She had traded her beauty for the system. She had murdered me in our past life,
just to take this path.
and now her talent was actually shrinking because she couldn't handle the work? At that moment, my phone rang in the kitchen. I stepped away from the hallway to answer it. It was a call from the head director of a national sports apparel brand. "Is this Olivia Brooks?" the refined female voice asked. "Yes, speaking." "Hello, Olivia. I'm Sarah Jenkins, marketing director for Aura Athletics.
We've
Been following your online fitness platform for the past 6 months.
We are
Incredibly impressed by your work ethic, your authentic engagement with young women, and your elegant image." She paused, allowing the weight of her next words to sink in. "We would like to offer you an exclusive brand ambassador contract. It includes a 2-year sponsorship, financial support for your university tuition, and a featured campaign in our upcoming national summer line. We'd love for you and your legal guardian to come to our headquarters next Monday to discuss the contract details." I kept my voice calm and professional.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
I would be honored to review the terms. When I hung up the phone and walked back into the living room, Mom looked up, her forehead creased with annoyance. "Who was that, Olivia? I told you not to take personal calls while your sister is resting." I looked at Mom, then at Dad, and finally at Emily, who was glaring at me from the couch. "That was Aura Athletics," I said quietly. "They offered me a national sponsorship deal and a university tuition scholarship." The room went dead silent. Dad's head snapped up. "What?
Aura Athletics?
That's a major brand.
They want
You, they like the brand I've built," I replied simply. "They're offering enough to cover my full college tuition plus a base salary." Mom stood up, her mouth open in shock. "Tuition?
salary?
But you don't even compete on the varsity team." "I don't need to compete on a track to build a life, Mom," I said smoothly. Emily's face twisted into a grotesque mask of shock and envy.
No, that's impossible.
"You're just a nobody posting videos. I'm the athlete. I'm the one who was supposed to get sponsorships." She tried to push herself up from the couch, but the sharp pain in her injured legs sent her collapsing back down, howling in agony. I looked down at her with quiet pity. "Emily," I said softly, my voice carrying a weight that made her freeze.
A
"Title doesn't give you value. You have to create value yourself. You thought taking my path would give you my life, but you forgot that the path means nothing if you aren't willing to walk every single step." Over the next month, the contrast between my life and Emily's became impossible for anyone to ignore. While Emily sat at home, bitter and immobilized by her injury, my life accelerated. I signed the contract with Aura Athletics. The news was picked up by regional lifestyle magazines, featuring me as an inspiring example of youth, entrepreneurship, and healthy living. My parents' attitude underwent a grotesque, predictable transformation. Suddenly, Dad was no longer interested in track meets. He began hovering around me during my video shoots, offering to handle my business emails, subtly hinting that he should act as my manager so he could control the sponsorship payouts. Mom, who had spent months warning me not to embarrass the family, started inviting her wealthy friends over to the house just so she could casually point out my national magazine covers sitting on the coffee table. "Olivia has always been the sensible, independent one," Mom would laugh loudly during her afternoon tea gatherings, completely forgetting how she had treated me weeks ago. We always knew she had a bright head on her shoulders. I watched their performance with detached amusement. In my previous life, when I won Olympic gold, they had done the exact same thing, using my achievements as social currency while ignoring Emily. In this life, the moment Emily stumbled, they abandoned her just as quickly to leech off my success. They didn't love their daughters. They loved prestige. One evening, Dad walked into my room holding a set of legal papers. "Olivia, son," he said, putting on a warm, paternal smile that made my stomach
turn.
"Now that you're earning serious money from these sponsors, I set up a joint family trust account. It'll be easier for me to manage your taxes and contract earnings until you turn 18. I sat at my desk, quietly closing my laptop. "I've already consulted a lawyer provided by Aura Athletics," I said calmly.
My
Earnings are placed in a blocked trust structure that opens on my 18th birthday. Only I hold the signatory rights. Dad's fake smile vanished instantly, replaced by a dark, angry flush.
what? You.
Went behind my back. I'm your father. I have a right to manage your finances. You have a right to fulfill your legal duties as a parent until I turn 18. I corrected him softly. Which includes providing food and shelter. My business affairs are my own. You ungrateful little. Dad stepped forward, his face contorted in rage. Dad, I interrupted, looking him dead in the eye. If you try to touch my accounts, my sponsor's legal team will file a formal conflict of interest injunction tomorrow. It would be very embarrassing for your firm if the press found out you were trying to appropriate your teenage daughter's scholarship funds. Dad froze. His jaw worked silently as he realized that I wasn't a naive 16-year-old girl he could intimidate. The calm, absolute composure granted by the beauty system and reinforced by my experience from a past life made me look entirely untouchable. He slammed my bedroom door on his way out. I breathed out slowly, turning back to my window. The birds were singing in the garden outside. In 6 months, I would turn 18. I would pack my bags, move to the university campus on the East Coast, and leave this hollow, toxic house behind forever. The final breaking point came on the evening of our high school graduation gala. The event was held at the Grand Regency Hotel, a luxurious venue reserved for the town's elite families. Ethan Walker's family was hosting the evening, and everyone who was anyone had attended. I wore a floor-length, backless emerald green silk gown. It was simple, elegant, and devoid of tacky embellishments. The beauty system, now fully integrated with my inner maturity, radiated a striking, effortless grace. The moment I entered the ballroom, conversations slowed down. Talent scouts, local figures, and fellow students looked toward me with open admiration. Even Ethan Walker walked across the room, holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider, offering one to me with a polite, genuine smile. Congratulations on your early admission to Columbia, Olivia, Ethan said, his tone warm and respectful. My father was reading your interview in the Business Journal this morning. He was very impressed by your digital media strategy. Thank you, Ethan. I smiled warmly, taking the glass. I hear you're heading to Yale for political science.
Yes.
It seems we'll both be on the East Coast, he said, a faint, rare warmth appearing in his eyes. Maybe we could grab dinner in New York sometime after the semester starts. In my past life, Ethan had chased me with overwhelming grand gestures. In this life, without the desperate interference of Emily, our interaction was natural, grounded in mutual respect between equals. Before I could answer, a loud crash echoed from the entrance of the ballroom. Everyone turned to look. Emily stood at the doorway. She was wearing an overly elaborate, heavily sequined red dress that looked entirely out of place. Her hair was frizzy, her makeup was thick and heavy, trying desperately to cover the dark circles under her hollow eyes. Because she had stopped training entirely, the physical enhancements of the elite athlete system had degraded further. Her posture was slouched, her skin was dull, and the ugly, consumed expression on her face stripped away whatever natural charm she once possessed. She held a half-empty glass of wine in her hand, her eyes locking onto Ethan and me standing together. Olivia, she shrieked, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. My parents rushed forward, horrified. Emily, what are you doing?
You're
supposed to be at home resting. Get away from me. Emily shoved Mom's hand off her arm. She limped heavily into the center of the ballroom, pointing her shaking finger at me. It's not fair, Emily screamed, tears smearing her heavy eyeliner down her
cheeks.
It was supposed to be my turn. I chose the system. I was supposed to be the champion. I was supposed to have Ethan. I was supposed to have everything. The guests recoiled in shock and confusion. What is she talking about? System? Is she drunk? She's completely out of her mind. Ethan's father frowned deeply, gesturing for the hotel security guards to step
In.
Emily ignored everyone around her, stumbling toward me with pure hatred in her
Eyes.
You cheated, Olivia. You stole it from me. You manipulated everyone.
Give
it back to me. She raised her glass, intending to hurl the red wine straight at my face and
gown.
In my past life, I was caught off guard when she rammed her car into mine. I had believed in sisterly love until the very last second. This time, I didn't even blink. Before she could throw the liquid, I stepped fluidly to the side, my reflexes sharp and precise. Emily lost her footing on her high heels, her injured leg giving out entirely. She crashed hard onto the polished marble floor, spilling the dark red wine all over her own bright red dress. The glass shattered into pieces beside her. She lay on the floor in the center of the grand ballroom, panting, covered in wine, looking like a pitiful, tragic clown. In her head, a final, cold mechanical announcement sounded, a tone that only she and I could hear. System notice. User Emily Brooks has failed to demonstrate discipline, mental resilience, or athletic integrity. System's sync rate dropped to 0%. Reclaiming all host attributes. Elite athlete system departing. Good luck with your natural life. A soft, golden whisper left Emily's chest, fading into the air. The subtle physical stamina, the heightened reaction time, the baseline muscular tone, everything the system had ever given her vanished in an instant. She felt an overwhelming, crushing weight settle into her bones, leaving her feeling weaker, heavier, and more exhausted than an ordinary person.
No, no.
Come back. Don't leave me. Emily shrieked, clawing at her own arms, as if she could physically pull the system back into her skin. I'm the prodigy. I'm the athlete. Security guards gently but firmly pinned her arms, lifting her off the floor. Our parents ran over, their faces burning with absolute, irreversible disgrace. Dad tried to pull a coat over Emily to hide her from the cameras that guests were pulling out, while Mom sobbed in pure humiliation. As the security guards dragged the screaming, hysterical Emily out of the ballroom, she looked back at me one last time. I stood under the warm glow of the crystal chandelier, serene, elegant, and completely untroubled. Emily stared at me, and in that final, terrifying moment of clarity, the truth finally hit her like a lightning bolt. I hadn't cheated. I hadn't used a secret trick. Even when given the beauty system, a tool meant for superficial vanity, I had turned it into strength through hard work, dignity, and independence. Meanwhile, she had been given a system capable of creating a legend, and she had destroyed herself with her own laziness, spite, and greed. It was never the system that made the person. It was the person who dictated the
Fate.
3 years later, New York City. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and roasted coffee. Through the streets of Manhattan, inside a sleek, high-end studio in Soho, the launch event for Vera, my independent lifestyle and wellness brand, was in full swing. At 21, I had graduated early from university, using my sponsorship, earnings, and digital media platform to establish my own business empire.
The
Brand was valued in the tens of millions, built on a foundation of genuine health, physical empowerment, and mental clarity for women across the globe. Olivia, the press conference is starting in 5 minutes, my assistant whispered gently, handing me an iced matcha latte. Thank you, Clara. I'll be right out. I smiled. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling glass window, looking out over the bustling city skyline. A small package had arrived in the mail that morning from my old hometown.
It
Contained a letter from a former high school classmate updating me on the lives of the people I had left behind. After the disaster at the graduation gala, my parents' social reputation was completely destroyed. Unable to face the embarrassment, Dad took an early retirement, and Mom stopped attending social gatherings altogether. They lived in bitter, quiet isolation, constantly arguing over money and lost opportunities. Emily had never recovered. Without the system's boost, and having refused to put in the grueling physical therapy required to heal her leg properly, she walked with a permanent limp.
She
Worked a low-paying clerical job at a local utility office, living in a small, rented apartment far from the affluent neighborhoods she had once dreamed of conquering. She spent her evenings watching television, bitter, aging prematurely, perpetually complaining to anyone who would listen about how the world had stolen her destiny. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in the drawer. I felt no hatred for Emily, nor did I feel smug satisfaction. She had chosen her path twice, and twice she had proven that no gift from fate could save a soul
consumed by envy.
Olivia? A tall figure walked into the lounge. Ethan Walker, dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, carrying a bouquet of white lilies. He was currently working as an associate at a major international law firm in Manhattan, and over the past 2 years, we had grown into close, trusted partners and friends. Am I late for the opening speech? Ethan asked, his smile genuine and bright. Just in time, I smiled, stepping forward to accept the flowers. Thank you, Ethan. You look breathtaking, Olivia, he said softly, his eyes filled with warmth and deep, unshakable respect. Though, I suppose that's nothing new. I lightly laughed, walking beside him toward the brightly lit press stage where dozens of journalists, camera crews, and supporters were waiting. As I stepped out under the spotlight, the applause swelled throughout the room. Cameras flashed, capturing my image, not as a toy for the wealthy, not as a desperate girl begging for love, but as a woman who owned her mind, her body, and her future. A long time ago, a hooded figure had offered us a once-in-a-lifetime choice. Emily thought she was stealing a golden future when she snatched the elite athlete system from the figure's hands. She never understood that fate does not hand out destinations. It only hands out
Tools.
what you build with them is entirely up to you.